But in all seriousness, as Christians, if we are not careful, we can fall into the trap of shaving off the edges of the truth so that we can be liked. And our text this morning deals with that. It really gets to the heart of that. To the heart of our desire for people to like us and our desire for people to, beyond that, like God. Amen? I mean, we want them to like us, but even more than that, we want them to like God. And if we're not careful, we will do things that we believe can achieve that on God's behalf. In 1 Corinthians chapter 1, there is a frame here around the section that we're going to look at. We're going to look at verses 18 to 25. But Paul starts in 1 Corinthians 1, 10 through 17, dealing with divisions in the church. Then he comes back to that issue again in chapter 3, verses 1 to 23, dealing with divisions in the church. In the middle of that, in 1 Corinthians 1, 18 through 2, 16, he talks about the proclamation of the crucified Christ, framed between this discussion about divisions in the church. And divisions among Christians often come down to two issues. Number one, the people whom we like. So we divide according to whom we like. I am of Apollos, I am of Cephas, I am of Paul. I like this person. I follow this person. I align with this person. But sometimes we divide not necessarily over who we like, but over who we think makes the world like us. This is why we just get so out of sorts if we find out that some famous actor or musician or athlete is a Christian. Have you heard that so-and-so is a believer? Wow. It's amazing. It's as though we think that the people who don't like God will find out that whatever famous actor or athlete or musician is a Christian, and we will come to them and we will say, really? You like that? You like how he did that? You like how she did that? Christian. And they'll say, wait a minute. I take back every negative thing I've ever said about Jesus. Because no, it doesn't work that way. If anything, they'll take away being a fan of that person rather than change what they believe about God. We want to be liked, sometimes to a fault. But the frame around this discussion looks like this. In 1:17, Paul says, "For Christ did not send me to baptize, but to preach the gospel, and not with words of eloquent wisdom, lest the cross of Christ be emptied of its power." In other words, he says he was careful, even with the way that he presented the gospel, because he did not want the way he presented the gospel to interfere with the power of the cross. And at the end of the frame, in 3:18, we read, "Let no one deceive himself. If anyone among you thinks that he is wise in this age, let him become a fool, that he may become wise. For the wisdom of this world is folly with God. For it is written, he catches the wise in their craftiness. And again, the Lord knows the thoughts of the wise, that they are futile. So let no one boast in men, for all things are yours, whether Paul or Apollos or Cephas or the world or life or death or the present or the future. All are yours, and you're Christ's, and Christ is God's." You see, the point is not that we don't want to be liked. The point is that as followers of Christ, there is something that we value more. There is something that we desire more. Not to the extent that we become sociopaths, but to the extent that we are willing to endure the displeasure and disappointment of men because of that something that is more important. That something that is more significant. That something that is more weighty for us. And that something is the wisdom of our foolish gospel.